Schools will start up again very soon, even though it's still a little unclear what classes will look like.
While there's no argument that there have been gaps in learning throughout the pandemic, education advocate Nadine Levitt says kids need this summer to reset. Amanda spoke with Levitt about finding the right balance this August between learning and relaxing.
There seems to be a real learning loss, but exactly how big that loss is, we don't really know because so many districts opted out of standardized testing. So there seems to be, early data seems to indicate that there's a huge gap, particularly in mathematics. But what I find really, really important, and I think educators and parents need to remember this, is this mind-body balance. We see it in athletes all the time, that you have to optimize the mind and body in order to be able to learn. So if a student doesn't feel like they're capable, that they can and will learn, they won't.
In terms of this educational gap, like you said, we won't really know how big that gap is, how much we've lost out on in the last year because a lot of districts opted out of those standardized tests. But do you see an idea of how far into the future this could go? Well,
so globally, I think, obviously it's a global problem. There's about 800 million kids that have seen this, and it's definitely an equity issue. But what we've seen is, so the World Bank just came out and estimated the interruption by the pandemic actually caused a lost future income of about $1.7 trillion. I personally don't like to equate it to economics like this. I think that, again, kids will that particular statistic is based on kids dropping out of school because of this learning loss. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. They will only drop out of school if they no longer believe that they can and will succeed. So we have to focus really hard on how do we create those environments and processes so that they can feel and believe that they can succeed.
As a parent, how can you tell if your child really needs more education or if they really just need this time out from summer?
It doesn't have to be neither here or there. I think you can always continue to learn no matter how good you are. And little things like half an hour of reading a day is just good for everybody, 5 days a week. But don't battle your kids for it because that'll take the love of reading away. But remember things like cooking, for example, a great activity to try, and it requires reading. It requires a little mathematics, measurements, and so forth. If your kids really want to just stay in front of the TV constantly, just turn the sound off and put the subtitles on, and then they're reading. Voila.
So those are a few activities. Are there other major activities or even camps that parents should be looking into this summer?
There's things like Time Magazine do have wonderful resources for kids, National Geographic, Sesame Street, depending on the kid's age and whether you want to be on screen or off screen. Whirly EDU is a wonderful music education platform. We at My Mama Says, I wrote some books on emotions, so there's lots of activities that families can have there too. And there's Circle Time. There's this wonderful app that actually combines going outside with technology. It's called Seek by iNature. And you can use the technology to see what plants are, for example, which is a really great excursion. There's Audible, which is a great way to get your kids excited about stories. So there's lots of things that the trick is really finding out what your kids are excited about and using that to start the learning journey.
You know, as we watch the COVID-19 numbers kind of start to rise again, there is a little bit of a fear of how this will impact the school year again coming into the fall. Do you think that we have, as a society even, learned enough from the last year that we can move forward with a fairly normal school year?
Let's hope so. I think that the mental health of our kids requires socialization. So I think it's really hard. And we know that anxiety and stress and depression and things like that really inhibit learning. So I think, again, there's going to be some schools that are very, very well equipped to handle this. And there are some schools that just don't have the resources for it. So unfortunately, this is a really big equity issue that we're seeing even here in America.
Nadine Levitt also shared with us a full list of activities to look into during the summer. Head to the 207 section of our website or News Center Maine app for that.